On April 1, 2019, 125 volunteers from over 30 states of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Community USA traveled to the nation's capital for their 9th annual Day on the Hill. This year, the group engaged U.S. lawmakers in a call to action to address the plight of the Uyghur Muslim population in China. According to published reports by the U.S. State Department, Human Rights Watch, and the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom, authorities in China have detained at least 1 million Uyghur Muslims in re-education camps, denying them freedom of speech, religion, and movement. They have been subject to widespread mass surveillance to restrict their religious activities as Muslims, enduring major cruelties such as torture, beatings, food deprivation, and solitary confinement. The group briefed over 275 U.S. congressional offices on Capitol Hill, including meetings with members of the U.S. House of Representatives, the U.S. Senate, and various senior staff members. A collection of speeches delivered by His Holiness Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad, may Allah be his helper, the global spiritual leader of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, on his recent U.S. tour was shared with every office, along with an extensive briefing book. The day concluded with a special reception held by the Ahmadiyya Muslim Congressional Caucus in the Rayburn House Office Building foyer. The 34-member bipartisan caucus was formed 5 years ago in order to draw awareness to human rights abuses against religious minorities worldwide. Amjad Mahmood Khan, National Secretary for Public Affairs, emceed the event.
For 9 years, our community has come together as volunteers to fight for international religious freedom for all. We are a community that lays roots in 1920, one of the oldest American Muslim organizations. Our mosque in Washington, D.C. has been there since 1950, and we have been very civically engaged in talking with our leaders and lawmakers about issues that matter for all of humanity. And as a community that is persecuted ourselves in some parts of the Muslim world, we are obligated to stand up for brothers and sisters in faith who are suffering. And our religious leader, our spiritual leader, His Holiness, Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad, has called for true international religious freedom for all communities, whether you're a Christian or a Yazidi or a Rohingya or a Uyghur or an Ahmadi who may be suffering today.
The two co-chairs of the caucus, U.S. Congresswoman Jackie Speer of California and U.S. Congressman Peter King of New York, headlined the event.
As a tribute to the Ahmadi community is, as much as they are being persecuted, the effort that they are putting into other communities who are being oppressed. Now, the effort they're making for the Uyghur community is just truly outstanding. And it's very unusual that when a group is under siege itself, that it finds the time to reach out to help another community, realizing that religious freedom should be universal, that you can't have one religion free if the other is not free. All of us must be free or none of us is free. So I really commend them for that effort.
As you are concerned about the persecution going on in Pakistan for other Ahmadiyya Muslims, you have always, as my co-chair has said, been part of an effort to go beyond yourselves. That is extraordinary, and it is one of the things that makes me so grateful to be associated with all of you. The fact that we have 1 million Uyghurs right now in internment camps in China, and there's hardly a blip on the radio or TV about it, is truly shocking. And it makes me fearful that once again we will repeat history if we don't learn the mistakes of the past.
The U.S. Ambassador at Large for International Religious Freedom, the Honorable Sam Brownback, commended the Ahmadiyya Muslim Caucus for advocating for the Rohingyas and Uyghurs.
I'm delighted you're here to advocate on behalf of both the Rohingya and the Uyghurs. Both of these causes are extraordinary situations of persecution. China seems to be at war with faith. It is a war they will not win. Governments come and go, but faith stays the course and stays on because it's how people direct their souls. It's something that lives within people.
U.S. Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy met with some Uyghur Muslims recently and was appalled at the stories they told.
And the tales that they tell about the suffering that their community is experiencing, the persecution that is being directed by the Chinese government on a scale we've seldom seen in history, is something that we all in Congress have to be talking about more and more and more. There's nothing more important than, at the end of the day, celebrating what makes America exceptional, and that is our commitment to human rights and to dignity and to freedom. And if we can't uphold those values abroad, then where are we as a country?
Rushan Abbas, a Uyghur American representing the Campaign for Uyghurs, shared her personal stories and appealed to the world community to do more.
Everything that makes the Uyghurs unique has been targeted and they treated as abnormality. The language, culture, religion, history, cult and religion and the ethnic identity. All normal religious activities in Islam are being banned and labeled as religious extremism under the pretext of the People's War on Terror. Under this pretext, China has developed a surveillance and a police state. It is a crime against humanity and civilization. Collectively punishing an ethnic group with fascistic atrocities should not be allowed in 2019.
Subject matter experts from the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom and Human Rights Watch shared some of their findings.
The sheer numbers of Uyghurs who have been detained in camps, as many as 2 million from some of the information we've received, but also the fact that some 1 million or more government officials, the Chinese government has put inside these homes of Uyghur families to monitor them. Our commission, I can tell you, will be unwavering and unflinching in its support of these communities in our advice and recommendations to the U.S. government going forward.
It's easy to get cynical about communities not caring about one another, and I think there's nothing more powerful or more potent than watching the Ahmadiyya Muslim community advocating for Uyghurs, and in that sense, it is an honor and very humbling to be here with you this afternoon. And we urge that all governments continue to relentlessly, publicly, and unapologetically call on China to close these camps and end their persecution of a peaceful community.
Imam and missionary in charge for the Ahmadiyya Muslim Community USA, Azhar Hanif, spoke about liberty and justice.
And that is, without justice, there can be no peace in this world. Justice is the cornerstone of establishing not just peace in America, meaning we be free to have our rights and our liberties, but without the rights and liberties elsewhere in the world, we are all in danger of someday losing our own peace. But I'm glad here today we are thinking about these critical words of being an American citizen: liberty and justice for all. Let us stand together on these words always and bring these words to the world citizen who desperately needs them, including the Uyghur Muslims and so many around the world. May God help us all to remain just always.
Other members of the U.S. Congress addressed the gathering.
So I thank you for all coming today, for using that tool, for making your voices heard. I know that you have an advocate in my office for religious freedom of all types and for tolerance, because at the end of the day we are too good a country and too good of people not to love each other all equally.
I think religious freedom is one of the most important concepts of the United States of America, and the persecution that the Ahmadiyyas are facing is the same type of persecution that many religious minorities have faced throughout the ages. So we have to stand up for religious minorities when they're being persecuted.
Ahmadiyya community does great work. It's really important for groups to come on the Hill to work in support of some important issues. And the community works both in support of themselves, but importantly in support of other groups. And this year it's the Uyghurs, who need all the help and the voices they can get.
MTA News caught up with the president of the Uyghur American Association, who told us he has been a victim himself. His brother was murdered and he doesn't know the whereabouts of his mother and his 3 sisters, along with their children.
And so this is also very torturing in our life. What I'm doing is actually very basic, asking for Uyghur people's basic human rights. We want to live a dignified life with our dignity, but that basic, very fundamental request was crushed by the Chinese government.
As part of Day on the Hill, over 30 women delegates of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community held a special group reception with Uyghur women and congressional staff, headlined by an address by U.S. Congresswoman Norma Torres. Numerous print and TV outlets covered the event, including CNN, Voice of America, and Christian Broadcasting Network, with coverage extending to an audience of 33 million people worldwide. Mahnur Wasim, MTA News, USA Studios.